This is actually so wild that they wrote this. Like, I'm legitimately shocked.
Hello, happy Monday, and welcome back to the drama. Today we're talking about the GOAT, James Charles, a YouTuber that the Cosmopolitan said would like to be uncanceled after there were multiple allegations of him talking to and sending pictures to underage fans over 2 years ago. Now James Charles is determined to have his redemption arc, and personally, I think it's pretty gross. The article is framed as a tell-all from James Charles, a sign that he is fully admitting his faults, that he's putting his cards on the table, and he's ready to move on from this huge mistake he made in his life. But in reality, this article by the Cosmopolitan almost comes off as like a parody of what it's trying to be. An internet star trying to repair his reputation while making it as obvious as it can be that he's just here to sell his new makeup line and come off as somewhat of a regular, normal, well-adjusted person. I went into this article expecting it to be rough because of the past couple of years of James Charles being online and how the internet has reacted to it. I didn't really think we were going to come to any conclusion that was overall productive. Obviously, it's going to be productive in the sense that it's going to sell more of James' makeup, but in terms of actually admitting the shit he did wrong, I don't know. So yeah, I expected it to be rough, but I expected it to be a good, honest look at what James has done while being critical about the way that he now is representing himself as this new redeemed person who has changed from the past. During so many times in this article, I wasn't even sure myself if the writer understood the kind of propaganda that she is making by making this article and putting it out. She goes from being self-aware about the irony of being canceled while also doing a Cosmopolitan magazine interview with James in his $7 million mansion. So I am ready to skim through this article with you and show you just how gross it really is. But in order to do that, I had to employ the help of Twitch superstar Hassan Piker. We're going to be reading through the article with him while I pop in every once in a while to give you my thoughts on the whole thing. But before we do that, the channel is growing. We're literally so close to passing the main channel. You should subscribe, check out the channel, and check out He Said Us, the other channel where I follow up these videos with some other smaller dramas going on. Let's jump into the story. Come on.
What's next?
It's an article by the Cosmopolitan that I found right before I came here that was from 2 days ago. And it's called James Charles
wants to be uncanceled?
And I didn't read any of it because I was like, we have to read this.
So this article is called James Charles Would Like to Be Uncanceled, Please. And it kind of comes from this angle of like, oh, James is willing to just look at his mistakes straight up and see what's wrong with them, and he's ready to move on with his life and redeem himself as a person who doesn't do that stuff. But as you'll see with this article continuing, it is anything but a real honest look at how James is trying to reclaim his fame, and it is more of a propaganda piece trying to get us to feel bad for someone that grew a lot over the past couple of years. And as we will recap in this article, the things that James got in trouble for was the fact that he was DMing and having conversations that were inappropriate with fans of his, some of which turned out to be underaged.
It's the year of our internet 2023, and as surely as the sun rises, an internet celebrity has an apology to make. So here I am sitting in James Charles' Encino mansion. That's where you go when you get canceled. Back to your Encino mansion next to like the fucking.
Go back to my mansion.
I had to do a lot of thinking. Like, okay, babe, this is your fault. No, you're not a pedophile. No, you're not a fucking groomer. No, you're not a predator. But you made a big mistake. If he says all of those three things, which is the reason why he got canceled, that is not him, then what kind of learning and thinking did he do?
He's saying that when he texted those boys, it was not out of attraction because of them being underage. He just made a mistake. He messed up.
You know what his mistake was? Not busting out a fucking ukulele. At this point, you're likely familiar with the specific quid pro quo inherent in celebrity profiles like this, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so this person is like breaking the fourth wall by being like, his publicist wanted us to write this really bad, so I'm gonna do it.
And so I'm going to talk about this a few times in this video, but a lot of what is said in this article comes off to me like it's always trying to be aware that things might not be as genuine as they can be, while also trying to justify why James might be doing this. And it does even explain in this article that it's kind of fishy that James Charles wants to have this redemption arc while also trying to sell his new makeup line and talk about how hard it has been for him to go through his cancellation. If that doesn't scream to you propaganda piece to make this guy look good in the public eye again, while also explaining that he did hire a PR firm in order to make this article happen. It is the most obvious form of propaganda I have seen online in a long time, and you are going to see just how bad it gets. The kind of language this writer uses to victimize James Charles rather than the people that he hurt in the first place.
Ostensibly Charles' new makeup line painted, but it's also Charles himself, a warier, acceptably contrite, still just a little extra Charles. After all, would a still ousted person be allowed to pose for a red carpet canvas of the People's Choice Award or chat amiably with paparazzi while out and about in Hollywood? Would a still banished person have hundreds of thousands of fans enthusiastically engaged with his YouTube beauty tutorials? Yeah, I mean, no, that's not.
Yeah, this is actually pretty interesting.
It's basically saying, like, he got away with doing the things that he was doing. Would a truly exiled person be 24 years old and living in a reportedly $7 million farmhouse that looks like a cross between the homes featured in the later season of Vanderpump Rules and any season, any and all iterations of the Kardashians? You know, black and white modern exteriors, hyper-organized interiors.
Painted, a solo venture 4 years in the making, launches in just a few weeks. People have speculated that I have partners or investors, which I don't know how that rumor got started, Charles said. This line is fully self-funded. Every single dollar that has gone into the brand has been from personal savings and checkings accounts. I have no investors, no partners, no billion-dollar backers behind me. This is the equivalent of saying that we should have voted for Mike Bloomberg to be the next president because he didn't take money from anyone besides his own pockets, but he's worth like billions of dollars. So of course he doesn't have to ask people for grassroots fundraising when he can fund his presidential run on his own while also using it as this statement to be like, oh, I'm fully self-funded. I don't need to take money from you guys. And in the same way here, James looks at this whole thing and he goes, okay, if I was canceled, why can't I start this makeup line if I have no partners, no one helping me out? I'm doing it all on my own. And my answer to that would be that money, having a lot of money shouldn't be the ticket to allowing you to do things that you want to do, despite the fact that you hurt people and the people who initially helped you out and that supported you do not trust you anymore. Whether or not James can afford all of the marketing and all of the expenses that come with starting a makeup brand, I don't really think it changes anything if he funded it himself.
There's a lot riding on the answer. Painted, a solo venture for years in the making, launches in just a few weeks. I mean, this is literally so he could sell products, I think.
It's literally he's doing a Cosmopolitan interview about trying to not be canceled anymore as he's trying to promote a product. Like,
yeah.
It's so like, this is just baffling to me.
Corner of the internet, known for constant sniping, backstabbing, and hopelessly convoluted rivalries. The same lack of guile and perma-logged-on status that drew viewers to Charles also made him a magnet for drama. There he was, posting regular apologies for things like insensitive tweets about Africa and Ebola.
I gotta see the tweets.
Or asking Shawn Mendes to juggle me like that. Okay, there's a range here, okay? Like,
Ebola and...
one is just like, whatever, you know what I mean?
Oh, I can't believe we're going to Africa today. No, shot. He tweeted, I can't believe we're going to Africa today. OMG, what if we get Ebola?
We're fine. We could have gotten it at Chipotle last year.
Talking about E. coli.
Oh, that's actually kind of a banger.
That's really funny.
That's kind of a banger. If the tweet was a joke, it certainly was a weird one, but that didn't sway Charles from ardently defending his remarks. He initially blocked tweeters who called out the lunacy of his tone-deaf tweet. Several hours and likely several frantic emails from CoverGirl later, Charles removed the tweet and issued an apology, which stated in short that he fucked up. He also called Africa a country. Okay, that's awesome.
Okay, I'm not going to post a bullshit apology. I was told what to say, and that's not how an apology should work. Extremely sorry for my tweet. I feel like shit for saying it. I'm traveling to Africa today with a few friends for a school trip. What?
Because we all know very little about the country, but are eager to learn.
If I was James Charles, I wouldn't tweet it, but as a joke, as a set-up punchline, it's very funny.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly.
I thought we
That's
could have
why
gotten it at Chipotle.
it's like kind of well written as a joke, but his apology also makes it seem like maybe it wasn't a joke because like
he was like,
we
I'm
thought
not
Africa is a country.
It feels like in this article, a lot of the time, they try to pose James as someone who's young, making these mistakes, tweeting things that might be potentially offensive. But in the end, the Ebola joke wasn't the thing that got James canceled. It was the fact that he kept responding to and having conversations with fans who wanted to be in a romantic sexual relationship with him. And even if they are adults, I think it's extremely inappropriate to be having that kind of conversation back and forth with fans of yours. I think it's a little bit odd.
So he did all this. This is like the allegation triggered more complaints against. In February 2021, at age 21, Charles confronted a career crisis he couldn't quickly apologize for or capitalize on. He was publicly accused of sending lewd photographs and inappropriate sexual messages to a then 16-year-old.
Photographs, too.
Lewd photographs and inappropriate
21.
sexual messages.
21 to 16.
I've never been more disgusted in my life than when I found out that kid was 16 years old. Charles said now. I was mortified, absolutely mortified. Is that how that worked?
How did he meet him?
The allegation triggered more complaints against Charles. They were primarily disseminated. He was like, I kept getting so disgusted.
It was also with a fan, he said.
Yeah. I just kept getting more and more disgusted. The more I found out all of those minors I was sexting were minors.
What? Every one of them is a minor?
I was like, it's like, damn it, I'm so disgusted. The allegation triggered more complaints. They were primarily disseminated from the form of TikToks filled with screenshots of flirtatious conversations Charles had allegedly conducted with a number of male fans. A few of the reported accusations, like the initial one, were serious and claimed to detail inappropriate online interactions between Charles and minors. Other claims, including an incident where Charles allegedly called someone daddy, felt muddier. Almost all of them were eventually rounded up into viral Twitter threads by a controversial poster who keeps track of internet scandals, now under fire himself. Who is this? Yes, even the chronicling of this saga has been surreal and convoluted.
Wait, a controversial poster who keeps track of internet scandals.
Okay, quick.
It could be Keemstar. It could be.
Oh, it's Def Noodles.
I was gonna say it was gonna be Def
You
Noodles.
were not
that was the name I was trying to come up with.
In the end, substantiated or not, multiple media reports indicated at least 15 boys and men. Yo, do you have no shame writing this article then?
15 dude.
Accused Charles of inappropriate behavior. Charles says now about the breadth of the allegations, the source of where the list came from was not doing any sort of research, no fact checking. Some of the screenshots depicted consensual conversations between adults. He says others were completely fake and never even happened. Charles has never legally been charged with engaging inappropriately with a minor, let alone proven to have knowingly done so. Nevertheless, that April, Charles uploaded a 14-minute YouTube video titled Holding Myself Accountable, where he admitted to inadvertently exchanging messages with 16-year-old boys. He said he was led to believe were 18, and he apologized for his desperate behavior. 15 was also the age of those boys.
Where can you find these people if you're not like going out?
I mean, dude, ask Colin Ballinger.
15.
You know what I mean?
It's fans. That's the answer.
Yeah,
Another
another expert. No ukulele, by the way, in this apology. Another expert of finding 15-year-olds to fucking have inappropriate relations with. If a celebrity with tens of millions of followers came sliding into your DMs, would you respond? I probably would. Oh my God. What is this article is awful. This article is worse than like the situation.
On the other side, I think this is like a sentence basically being like, there is a power imbalance here. Like if you got a DM from a celebrity, you're going to respond to it. And whether or not these kids reached out to James Charles on their own, or if he messaged them, either way, it's like he had to accept or choose to send a message in order to make that happen.
It's pretty cool when you have like gorillions of dollars, you can just like hire the greatest PR team.
Yeah, to write a Cosmopolitan
to just
article.
like get a fucking Cosmo piece like this going, where they're just like, 15 boys and men came out saying that there was inappropriate misconduct, which even included sending sex and nudes to minors, but also some of them lied when they were minors and said they were 18. One of them at least did. One of them asked us for money. Ooh, that's creepy, right? That's scary. What if they were all lying?
So I find this line by James Charles very interesting. He denies he ever engaged in grooming, a practice defined by the anti-sexual violence organization RAINN as, quote, manipulative behaviors that an abuser uses to gain access to a potential victim, coerce them to agree to the abuse, then reduce the risk of being caught. James Charles continues, I feel like that word is a very popular buzzword right now, especially in politics and stuff, but the actual meaning of it has been so misconstrued. Now, let me remind you people that when it comes to you doing bad things in your life, it's not the label that matters. It's the result of the action that you did and how it affected other people. It doesn't matter if the dictionary definition of grooming is incorrect when people call you out on it. It's about the actual action of talking to people that are fans of yours as an internet celebrity. It's not really about what the dictionary definition of it is and whether or not that is contributing to how bad James Charles has been affected by his cancellation. It's silly for me to hear them explaining that this word has become a buzzword that everyone is saying and trying to label me with, and that's just not true. I don't want to have this like social conversation over whether or not people are being too mean to you when you did this shit. I think you need to own up to these specific actions and not say, oh, well, people are calling me a groomer, and that's just not fair. All I did was send lewd photos to a 17-year-old. His basic take is that he can't be a groomer because he didn't know that they were underage. He didn't know that there was a coerciveness to the whole thing.
I feel like the word is a very popular buzzword right now, especially in politics and stuff, but the actual meaning of it has been so misconstrued. Referring to the first allegation against him, he adds, this conversation lasted 1 hour. I don't know this person. I've never met this person. Nothing happened between me and this guy. This is glazing James Charles up.
And again, in this situation, saying that the conversation only lasted an hour is not necessary. Opening the gate to that kind of relationship in the first place is what's dangerous about it. If you open up that text and say that you just stopped after an hour, so it's fine, that only means that it goes further than that. You can't just say, oh, well, it didn't happen. I didn't actually talk to this person for long enough for it to count as being inappropriate.
In the absence of hard evidence, hordes of commenters and bystanders glommed onto the idea that Charles was creepy, irresponsible at best. I wonder why they glommed onto that idea. Cosmopolitan, you literally are mentioning it in your article. His apology, one in a burgeoning and much mocked genre of YouTube influencer man couples, was full-throated. It did nothing to quell the terror. This is furor. This is like...
Yeah, like the fact that they say in the article, in the absence of hard evidence, when there were definitely multiple conversations that James himself admitted to, I think it's pretty inappropriate to be like, oh, in the absence of all this evidence, there's nothing really for people to grab onto. People are still mad at James. Like, what does he have to do to be able to not be canceled by you guys?
I mean, what it is like basically their idea is in order for us to get James to back where he was before, where he's not seen as this like freak, we need to just drop it all and do an article that makes him seem like, okay, I'm not hiding anything, but let's have a conversation about it. But it's not working because he didn't just like text some boys. You sent suggestive shit to them. They're fans, and you were 21. That's crazy.
It's fucking insane to me that they wrote this article being like, yeah, sure, there's 15 documented allegations against James Charles from minors and men, but also, who's the real victim here? His YouTube page was demonetized. He did not return as the host of Instant Influencer. Charles' team says this was done at their own request after they saw Morph getting backlash for associating with Charles. One estimate put his total loss of income in the millions. Oh, dude, he is the real victim here. Okay, they're making it seem like he is the real fucking victim.
It's a total loss in the sense of the millions, as in the money he could have made after getting in trouble with the shit he was doing. It's not like, oh, they took millions of dollars from him. It's, I got demonetized for my channel that I'm making millions and millions of dollars off a month because he sells makeup, which is a consumable product.
And then, of course, we continue on with the multiple quotes about James feeling horrible about the incident, saying that these were the past couple worst years of his life and that he just wants to move on with it. And it's not really fair that he has been hounded with all of these accusations constantly on the internet. Being someone who is outed as doing very inappropriate things that made people very uncomfortable online, it really bugs me how much this article really stresses the idea that James is someone who is deeply disturbed. I was going to say disturbed. That sounds like he's like in a horror movie or something. This article, it's gross. It is a massive news publication showing the platform of someone who has done bad things in his career and has made people uncomfortable and upset by his actions. And they're saying, hey, does this guy deserve the hate? You know, maybe it's been 2 years and maybe you should cut him some slack and really lay off of him. But at the same time, you know, he did do some bad things. You know, it is kind of weird that he's trying to make his reputation better after putting out a new makeup line.
I think it's inappropriate if it's like once or twice and really fucked up and bad. But 15, dog, like, I'm sorry. I think after 4, you're like, what are you fucking doing?
Yeah, and of
what
course,
are you doing?
You're gonna have your like fringe, like on the margins, people who are going to be like insincere and are going to say, like, it's the internet. There's kids that are gonna do dumbass shit. 15 is to the point where like when you already have 3 or 4 that are legitimate and proven, Why should I look at 15 and go, oh, the rest of them are probably just lying?
Treading a well-worn post-scandal path, Charles spent the next months mostly offline doing a lot of self-reflection and conferring with mental health professionals. And while a couple of months may seem like a laughably short time for a break, to Charles, having no stage felt like an endless punishment. I absolutely fucking hated it, he says. I'm somebody who likes to be busy at all times. I love filming. Having nothing to do drove me insane. Yeah, he's the real villain of the story.
Having nothing to do, even though he's like, I'm going to work on myself. And then he's like, I'm bored. I have nothing to do. I'm stuck in my Encino mansion all day.
And for me, if someone is coming on to an interview talking about them being forced to be offline for a little bit because of the things they've done, it usually isn't followed up with, oh, I was so bored. That time was really hard for me. I love being in front of the camera. I mean, he literally says, I am someone who likes to be busy at all times. I love filming. Having nothing to do drove me insane. Hey, man, you could have kept posting YouTube videos, you know? You're still famous. I don't know what part of this drove you insane. Were you waiting for people to be less upset about the things you did because you didn't address them properly in the first video? The initial apology video did so poorly in the first place, and it didn't take him offline or anything. As far as I know, I don't really follow James Charles that heavily, but it seems like he was still running around with the likes of Brent Rivera and the rest of his freaks.
With this situation, it was really scary because my coping mechanisms weren't coping. It was the first time I was ever like, oh fuck, I actually don't know what to do here. I eventually got to a point where I was like, this is not healthy. This is not good. This is getting to a really fucking dark place. The fallout became deeply personal when his younger brother, who works as a model in New York City, stopped talking to him because of the allegations. It's now been 2 years since they last spoke, Charles says. That was not enough for Cosmo to be like, maybe we shouldn't write this article. Like his own flesh and blood.
It's literally, that's the moment when you need to be like, okay, something deeper might be going on here that is causing someone who has known this dude for fucking 21 years.
This is probably the most insane article I've read in a while. This is actually so wild that they wrote this. Like, I'm legitimately shocked.
A lot of self-reflection, except at the same time, I had nothing to do, which drove me insane.
As the only out kid in gay school in a small town outside, I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. The whole, like, gay people are groomers narrative, like, tying a very real, vitriolic, anti-gay narrative to defend a dude who was doing grooming as a gay person.
Like so wild, dude.
That's an insane fucking thing.
There is nothing about a celebrity getting interviewed after doing disgusting things only to be showed off in this article as if he was this young, troubled kid that couldn't really find any friends in a small town outside of Albany, New York. I don't give a I just care about the actions of the shit he did and the way he's trying to play it off as if he's allowed to act as if he's some kind of victim of the whole thing. It doesn't matter. Your actions were gross, and so people were upset with you, and that's why you're offline. There wasn't some magical wizard that banished you to jail because you made an teensy tiny mistake. You got caught and you had to deal with the consequences. Oh my gosh, I gotta finish this video. I'm sweaty. Look at me. I'm like glistening. It's because I wanted to wear this cool sweater. It's a cool sweater.
Now they're going back to humanize him and talking about his like relationships. His biggest mistakes, he now thinks, were making himself too available, recklessly hitting on anyone he thought might be showing him interest.
My biggest mistake is I'm always too hard on myself. That's my biggest flaw.
Yeah, I'm too hard of a worker.
Yeah, like I shouldn't have opened myself up so much.
Yeah, his intention was never to prey on minors, he says. He tried to explain all this in holding myself accountable, but it just didn't come across right, he reflects. I've been f***ed over by men so many different times. At this point, I just want a fucking boyfriend. Somebody's going to love me. That's going to care for me. So a lot of times I go into just talking to somebody with rose-colored glasses. And that somebody happens to be underage, like in a lot of instances.
And also, just
who
because
amongst us?
You got fucked over by exes in your past, it does not like open the doors for being able to talk to fans with the platform you have.
Just a little bit of pedophilia, only for an hour. He tells me previously he had accounts on Raya, Tinder, Hinge, and Bumble. And while he did go on dates with people he met there, he ultimately felt too exposed. Like, anyone he swiped right on was going to take screenshots of their conversation and brag to their friends about it. You know who doesn't brag to their friends about it? Children. So that's why he was like, well, I won't be as exposed.
Those fuckers can keep a secret.
If you know, you know. And he knows that Charles is on a mission to rehabilitate his reputation. I know you know, and he knows. But, and even though we've already established he's very good at his job, I have to tell you that his regret doesn't come across in person as the opportunistic artifice so many celebrities begrudgingly wade through. It's more that he just seems young.
Dude, to say that about someone who has sent messages
That's crazy.
to minor, that's the thing we're talking about in the article. I love this. This is my video on Monday.
Not that everyone in his position would have the luxury of being perceived as naive or guileless. This comeback would look a lot different if Charles were a physically beautiful white man, or not a physically beautiful white man. I sometimes wonder what I would do if I blew up in my professional life in a public self-immolating way. Well, you kind of did with this article, my man. He's more cautious now, although not so much that he's given up on the DM sliding completely. Dude, what?
No way. Read the next sentence.
Instead, he started requiring potential romantic interest to provide IDs before he'll engage.
Don't talk to people who are in your DMs if you're famous.
I'm a club bouncer at this point, he says, which even still hasn't stopped the occasional breach of his trust. Earlier this year, a TikToker used shared snippets of a flirtatious conversation he had with Charles, in which Charles outlines the requirements for a boyfriend. Charles also tells me he recently caught a 17-year-old trying to lie about his age by taking out a digit on his ID.
Dude, stop asking people to send IDs to you. They'll listen.
Bro, that doesn't look good. That's like he said that because he thought that makes him look good. He's like, see?
He's like,
I caught one.
I make sure. Why?
If anything, this means he hasn't changed. Bro, stop. Stop DMing people that are DMing you in your DMs unless you like know verifiably if they are other celebrities, peers, maybe people you met out in the real world that you know how old they are. Why the fuck are you doing this?
The fact that James Charles thinks that the solution to this problem is to ask for IDs before he gets DMs from fans, like there's nowhere in this article that touches harshly enough on the idea that James should just straight up not be talking to fans. It's not appropriate to have relationships or friendships or extended conversations with people who only know you by the content you make through a camera. It's okay to go and respond to fans who appreciate your work, or even have a short conversation about a question someone asks you. But when it goes further than that and suddenly you're talking to someone behind closed doors in this way that comes off as weirdly romantically coercive, I think we have to have a serious conversation about what we actually think is the issue here, because it doesn't seem like in this article the Cosmopolitan has that much of an issue with the fact that these people are fans of his and the fact that there is a very obvious imbalance in his messages, but they end up making this piece that is like all about the fact that there wasn't proper evidence that they may or may not have been minors. A lot of them didn't have proof, and now James Charles asks for IDs now, so it's okay. No, it's not okay.
Also, like, you're allowed to respond to, like, when I say don't talk to fans, I obviously mean, like, don't have extensive conversations with these people who look up to and watch your content. Like, of course, the reason why you have, like, request messages is to respond to people, but that's supposed to be if someone's like, hey, I like your makeup, you inspire me, and then James can go, oh, thanks, I appreciate that.
I like your butthole. Can you show it to me?
But instead, that's how he responds.
More than anything, Charles seems focused on his goal, which is really to reclaim his spot in the cultural mainstream. I'll see a lot of people saying, oh my God, nothing even happened to him. He got away with his scot-free with no sort of repercussions. That is so far from the truth. It certainly wasn't an overnight thing where now I'm slaying again, but he's trying hard. Eventually, he hired a PR firm to help, which led to this article.
He literally even went to a Cosmopolitan. He got...
Yeah.
So I do want to bring up here that they say in the article that James Charles appeared at a Cosmopolitan party in LA after talking about how the cancellation prevented him from being able to go on red carpets and how his PR firm couldn't even get him at any events because he wasn't respected and he didn't have a good reputation on the internet anymore. But then they explain that he literally appeared at a Cosmopolitan party in LA, the same magazine that is deciding to put out this fucking propaganda piece on him disguised as an op-ed on this like disturbed man.
Whether his efforts will be rewarded remains to be seen. For his part, Charles seems to believe in absolution and not just for himself. I wonder why he didn't publicly post a screenshot of that purported apology note he got. Wasn't he mad? Didn't he want to give his haters at least one big fat I told you so? Possibly. That's crazy that like they're even saying, look how nice he is that he didn't actually mention it.
They said why wouldn't he if James Charles wasn't sorry?
His PR firm? Okay, that was 2020. That is before anybody knew. Chill out. It's important that people be held accountable, but I think it's important that we allow people to grow and learn. The idea that somebody fucks up with their entire life and career and everything that they've ever worked for should be swept out from under their feet is just horrifying. These days, it feels like culture at large, for better or for worse, is haltingly reaching the same conclusion. After all, don't the medium canceled now walk among us? This fall, while you perhaps wear a James Charles painted eyelid, you may find yourself baking out of Allison Roman's new cookbook,
All these canceled
following
people I've never
Tinks
heard of.
on your Instagram feed, or reading Caroline Calloway's memoir. Wait, what did these people do?
I don't know who any of those people are.
Allison Roman's comments about Chrissy Teigen and Mary Kondo lit a fire. Here's why it's still burning.
And at the end of this article, we of course have a comparison from following James Charles online to following 3 different women who got in trouble in the past for saying problematic things online. As far as I know, at least 2 of those women had nothing to do with anything that had to do with underage people or fans. It just had to do with stuff they tweeted like in 2013 or something. And I think it's ridiculous that we can say, oh, these people just make mistakes and let's move on. Do any of you have friends in real life like you do content creators where they just constantly have shit come out about them that shows that they suck? Because in real life, normal people don't have that weird like ego power thing, and this shit doesn't normally happen. We can't just pretend that because we're famous and because we are this person that has haters online, suddenly like we need to look at this with a little more forgiveness in our hearts. But if there was anyone ever in my fucking life who did the shit he did, they wouldn't be a part of my life anymore, right? And it's like, why do we look at content creators as these people who, wow, like they're always just going to get canceled. Someone's going to come out with shit about them. It's going to rip away their whole career. Who did that happen to? Where they unfairly had their whole career ripped from them and now they're just off the internet and the internet will not let them back on.
Who are these people? How many minors did they text? Was it 14? Some of her resurfaced posts, which were originally posted between 2012 and 2020, were fat phobic and misogynistic.
One from 2012 said, Kim Kardashian is so fat, I don't know what to do with myself. Hashtag oops. Another from 2013.
What the fuck is going on, dude?
You can be following Tinks.
Are
and
these
you could be
people
following
are
James
on
Charles.
crack? Why would you make this comparison? This is like an absurd thing to compare to texting inappropriate lewd shit to 15 fans, some of which were minors, okay? Calm the fuck down. Are you on crack cocaine? Holy shit.
I am very tired of the idea that it is like a minefield out here in social media. Being a social media star is like a minefield because you could get canceled at any second. And while I do think there are several cases where the internet takes a case too far and something happens that was not justified, but in this case online, we can't look at this as a case of, oh, the internet is always going to be the internet, so we shouldn't actually look at creators with a critical eye. If someone has 10 million followers on Instagram and they're reaching out to these people who are claiming to be minors who feel uncomfortable by the shit he's sending them, why are we like, oh, let's look at James Charles' childhood. He grew up in a small town. I don't think every situation falls under that umbrella, but I think in this case with James Charles, this article sucks. It is sad to see that someone can be given that massive of a platform and also have the entire article written about how sad it is that they can't have a platform while releasing a new makeup line on your platform. So I don't know. I'm sweaty. I'm hot. Let me know what you think of this article. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you to Hassan for reading through this story with me. I go on his stream every once in a while to talk about the TikTok news. I'm happy I was able to bring you one of the stories today. If you liked it, I have a whole playlist of drama videos that I've made. I have other channels. It's all in the link below. Of course, you should subscribe to this channel. Go check out He Said Us, the one where I talk about other shit. And I think that may be it. I think I'll see you on Wednesday. Okay? I'll see you on Hump Day, everybody. Goodbye. Goodbye.